Hello everyone and welcome. I'm here at the World Hydrogen Expo for 2025. I have a very special guest with me here. This is Miss Penny Sharpe, Minister Penny Sharpe, from the Ministry of Climate Change and Energy in New South Wales.
Correct.
Welcome.
Hello, good to be here.
So could you introduce yourself a little bit and the work that you're doing?
Yes. I'm from New South Wales, which is the most populous state in New South Wales. I'm from New South Wales, which is the most populous state in Australia.
From the start?
Did you do it from the start? Do we need to do it in one take?
He doesn't want you looking in the camera. That's why. They're like
easy.
really particular.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
We'll do one more.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and thanks for joining us. We're here at the World Hydrogen Expo for 2025 and I have a very special guest with me. This is Minister Penny Sharpe from the Ministry of Climate Change and Energy in New South Wales. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So could you introduce yourself a little bit to our viewers and tell us about the work that you're doing?
Sure. I come from New South Wales, which is in Australia. The capital city is Sydney, but we're the most populous state and the biggest economy. Mm-hmm. But we are on a very significant journey on climate change and on decarbonising our electricity grid, and also really trying to scale up and make us a world leader in hydrogen production.
Okay. And I understand you were one of the speakers here today. So could you tell us a little bit about the contents of your speech?
What I really wanted to say to the delegates here is, first of all, to thank them for all of their work in building a better planet by reducing emissions as we must. But importantly, I wanted to talk about New South Wales being a really secure and safe place to invest, a place where we have trusted partners. For Korea is just an example where we have shared interests, and that together we can build a hydrogen industry and an economy, but also learn from each other and help deliver renewable energy more quickly.
Right, I've heard from so many speakers today how important hydrogen is as a clean fuel source, and that's why there's so much promise for it. So particularly in New South Wales, what have you been doing to invest in this industry and to further the development?
Well, we're really trying to make hydrogen become more affordable and also grow in scale. We want it for domestic, we also want it for export. But what we're doing is we have a range of grants, we have a range of subsidies and concessions that's really supporting the industry to get established, but also to grow and hopefully grow rapidly.
And what about if we look a little bit further into the future, both for New South Wales and also maybe globally, what do you see some future trends or some future developments for the industry?
Well, I think what we need scale. We need really a very functional hydrogen economy, but what it also requires is the collaboration that you see at conferences like this, where you bring the experts together and we can solve some of the problems that we're all experiencing. I think one of the take-homes is that we know we can't do it on our own, but by collaborating we can do it together. So for New South Wales, we hope to be exporting green hydrogen to the world, being able to help particularly heavy emitting industries be able to decarbonise. So whether that's airlines, whether it's shipping, whether it's a range of mining and those kind of areas as well. This is where the future is, and that's what we're trying to build together.
Great. And maybe a final comment to some of the Korean companies who might be looking to expand outside of Korea. Yes. Anything that you'd like to share with them?
Australia and New South Wales in particular has a long-standing relationship with many Korean companies. We welcome you to come and see us. We welcome you to seek information for us. We know that you are trusted partners. We believe that our strategic alignment in terms of our commitments to net zero, our commitments to decarbonise our economies, and the innovation particularly that Korean companies bring mean that we can be very good partners together.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Korea.
Thanks, I will. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're here today at the World Hydrogen Expo 2025 in KINTEX, South Korea. My next guest is Dr. Neil Thompson. Welcome.
Nice to meet you, Thomas.
So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Sure. Well, I'm here as a guest of a company called WHE, which is an Australian-Korean investment and engineering company in renewable sector, KINTEX, and have been speaking at the event about the opportunity to increase the bilateral trade between Australia and Korea. And Australia's been a long-term supplier of LNG to Korea. Now we're looking at, well, how do we build on that trust and actually supply green steel, methanol, ammonia to power the Hyundais of the world to send trains and ships and buses back to us.
Right. You mentioned to me before the interview that Korea and Australia have a really close trade relationship, but it's a little bit imbalanced.
It is imbalanced, Thomas, and I was embarrassed to find out that whilst Korea is the number 3 for Australian exports, they're only number 20 in terms of inbound to Australia, both investment and material goods. So we'd really like to work on, as you say, addressing that imbalance.
So what are some of the ways then that we can do that to increase the trade between the two countries?
Well, I think one of the things that we have said time and time again is to actually improve the speed and the certainty of inbound investment to Australia.
Okay.
I mean, Korea is a security partner of Australia through various military forums. We have a long-standing history of cooperation, but our political system, I hate to say it in Australia, we have local, state and federal government. Sometimes that sort of 3-layer system can become quite unwieldy to some of our Korean partners. So we held an investment roundtable recently in Sydney with a number of powerhouse Korean investors, and basically they all said the same thing. What can we do to try and harmonise and rationalise that approvals process? So that's probably the number one thing we have to work on at the moment.
Yeah, because you mentioned to me, obviously Australia has the resources.
We have.
Korea has the industries.
Correct.
But the question is then,
how do we bring the two together?
Exactly.
Yep. So that's really what we're working on the Korean side, is events like this to actually talk to our Korean investment partners and talk to clean technology partners. So I was saying to your colleague earlier, I spent the earlier part of this week, Thomas, travelling down to Busan and meeting major players like Korea Hydro Nuclear Power, the Sunbo shipbuilding family, and East West Power. So we've really tried to start to put our feelers out to say, hey, Australia's open for business. We know you've got the clean technology. So we're starting to work with companies also like Doosan. They're a major hydrogen fuel cell company in Korea.
Right.
So we've got a number of projects starting with Doosan. One of the ironies about fuel cells is that we don't have enough electricity in our grid in Australia to charge Korean and Japanese EVs. So one of the ways we're dealing with that is using hydrogen in a fuel cell to create electricity to charge the EVs. Now, Mr. Musk and others probably aren't happy with that, but basically that's the reality of the energy economics in Australia. We need Korean fuel cells to charge EVs in Australia. So we do need hydrogen and fuel cells. So yeah, that's one of the things we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you specifically, this is the Hydrogen Expo.
Yes.
So specifically about the hydrogen industry.
Yep.
It's still a developing industry, and I can understand from talking to people today, it kind of has its ups and downs.
That's for sure.
And some difficulties of really establishing it and competing with other fuel sources and
fossil
and
fuels
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're really seeing what we're calling in Australia, Thomas, Hydrogen 2.0.
Okay.
I mean, I moved back to Australia from Europe in 2018. I did all my PhD research in Europe and basically started to promote, as you said, the big dream of hydrogen. I was very lucky to have some older colleagues within, say, Linde Gas and companies like that who counseled me on, let's not get carried away. Hydrogen's been around for 100 years in Australia. We use it for cooling turbines in power stations.
Right.
We use it for industrial applications as a chemical feedstock. But the scale of what people were talking about, that's where they started drinking the Kool-Aid. Now, we were talking about gigawatts of projects, Thomas, in Australia, whereas my colleagues in Europe just steadily went from 2 megawatts, 20 megawatts,
slow and steady,
200 megawatts exactly. One of my English colleagues in Alexei, their managing director, Robert Saunders, said, walk before you can run. So that's really what we're now back to, not the beginning, but yeah, we're having a bit of a reset in Australia after 8 years.
For a more sustainable long-term development.
Exactly. And I think the other thing, Thomas, as well, we're learning is that hydrogen is a constituent of other gases and chemicals.
Right.
It's not the silver bullet or the platinum bullet, as we say, because we use platinum in certain fuel cells. So basically, we focus more on the end-use application rather than hydrogen as a constituent. And I think when you start to pivot away from that dialogue to say, hey, hydrogen is just another gas, it's a very useful gas, very versatile gas, that's when you start to get the political classes and some of the investors in, okay, this is not just the hydrogen bubble, like the Dutch tulip bubble of the 1600s,
Right.
very famous in your part of the world.
Yes.
We think that change of narrative, just so slightly, and more, as you said, sort of controlled scale up, that will really be the key to seeing Hydrogen 2.0 take off in Australia.
Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. I feel like we could talk all day if
We
they'd
could,
let
Thomas.
us. I think we have to call it
Plane to catch.
Alrighty. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is Thomas reporting for Aving News. I'm here today at the World Hydrogen Expo with Mr. ㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡㅡ.
Thank you.
Welcome. So could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about the work that you're doing?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Juan Antonio Gutierrez. I am chemical engineer and I work with the Peruvian Hydrogen Association as a technical advisor.
Okay, and I understand you were one of the speakers here today as well.
Yeah, I was honored with the speech today.
Okay, so could you tell us the contents of your speech and...
Yeah, for sure. I present an overview of the hydrogen ecosystem in Latin America.
Okay.
And I explain why even being good resources and being a regulation being in place, hydrogen is not running as fast as we would like, and what is needed to push up this ecosystem in Latin America.
Can you share some of that with us? Because I'm also interested to hear the development in Latin America, and also you said some of the challenges.
Yeah, well, in Latin America, most of the countries already have a strategy, which is this classical document when the countries present their ambition on hydrogen and what are the plans to get that ambition. Less countries have some regulation or some laws, and even less countries are getting projects successful or getting the final investment decision. So in order to unblock this situation, some barriers should be identified. One of them is the price. No? Hydrogen is still an expensive molecule, and then we have to ask or to find some subsidies or support mechanisms by the governments to unlock this barrier. Another one is just regulation. No? The rules should be clear and should be in place in order to guarantee the developers that the conditions are good enough for the development. And yeah, that is a little bit the status.
I've talked to quite a few people now today, and a lot of them have mentioned the price as a major roadblock preventing further development. When you look at the Korean markets and you look at the Latin American markets, what similarities or differences do you see?
Well, I think the main difference is the potential resources, the renewable energy resources that each country have. And that's interesting because countries like Korea or Japan maybe will need to import some molecules, and countries like Peru, Brazil, or Chile could be the suppliers. So this is different. The similarities are, of course, the ambition to decarbonize our economies. Peru is not only aiming to produce the molecules to export, it's also looking for internal adoption in mining.
What do you think could be done then maybe on the governmental level to facilitate that interplay between, like you said, the demand for molecules in Korea and then the supply from Latin America?
I think the key is, or one of the keys is carbon pricing. The carbon pricing rules should be clear and should be ambitious. With a low price of carbon emissions, green molecules have no room. And the other one is some incentives, I think. Okay. Some incentives should put in place, and it's part of the externalities evaluation that the countries should have. What is more expensive, to support a clean industry or to pay the externalities of climate change?
Right, I think we all share this goal of clean energy. It's just a question of how do we get there in a sustainable way.
And what is the cost of today's emissions?
Exactly. Well, thank you for joining us to have this chat, and I'm sure our viewers enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
We're here today at the beautiful KINTEX exhibition hall for the World Hydrogen Expo. My next guest is Mr. Burke from
HyBoost Technology.
HyBoost Technology. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Could you introduce yourself a little bit and also about the company you're representing?
Sure, my name's Mark Burke. I'm from HyBoost Technology in Western Australia. We have some technology that's an on-demand hydrogen enrichment technology where we can change everything without changing your engines. So the hydrogen is produced on demand through a small electrolyser that sits alongside the engine, and then that is then entrained into the air intake for the existing air intake of a diesel engine. When that combustion occurs, the hydrogen helps burn all of the diesel that's usually wasted. About a quarter of your diesel is usually spat out the back of your engine. That's what a DPF filter captures and wastes or emits. That quarter that's usually spat out the back, now that the hydrogen is now enriched into your engine, it helps to burn all of that engine, and for that reason we're getting up to 24% in fuel savings and we're getting up to 94% in emissions reductions.
I really like that title, change everything without changing your engine.
That's right. You don't have to tap into the engine. You don't have to adjust the mapping or modify your engine in any way. The hydrogen is simply produced. It uses the power off the engine that it's using on, so it has no power source. It doesn't store any hydrogen. It has no hydrogen under compression. It simply just produces hydrogen when the engine's on. It assists the air intake with now enriched hydrogen, and it burns all of the wasted diesel.
So this is for B2C for the car producers that
This is probably more for your high consuming diesel engines. So I come from a background in mining in Western Australia, which is a very big mining state.
Sure.
We use, in just a small area of the Pilbara, the mining area in Western Australia, 7 billion litres are consumed just in that mining area in a year alone. That's 17% of Australia's consumption in that mining area alone. 30 billion litres of diesel in Australia, and to find that in one mining area that we're using 7 billion litres of diesel, it's pretty shocking. So the thing that we find though is that those bigger engines, the bigger trucks, the 110 tonne gross, 60 metre long road trains, and the haul packs and the drills, the 24-hour generators and the dewatering pumps, those sorts of engines haven't caught up to this wonderful technology that we see on showcase in there. So those sorts of size of engines, they would need a solar array of one truck would need a solar array of between 40 and 60,000 square metre solar field to power that one truck or to change its 3 batteries per day. So it's just not economical or feasible that technology has caught up to these engines yet. And we don't believe that they will for some time. So what's the solution to these sorts of diesel engines that we can use now and at a much lower carbon footprint? This technology that I'm speaking of weighs all of about 15 kilos and just quite easily sits on alongside your machine.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm not an expert by any means, but from what I can understand is hydrogen was used first as a byproduct in so many different industrial processes, and only recently we've started to look at it, for example, transportation and as a competitor to electrical powered vehicles, things like that. But what you're saying that's so unique is without really changing the car itself in a major way, you can go in and provide that technology needed to do that.
Correct. The electrolysis that's produced in the small cell, that is only just topped up with distilled water at scheduled service intervals, so there's no operator involvement at all. We work out what size engine you've got, how much hydrogen it would need to consume to get you the results, and then we make a tank and a unit's customised to be able to get through to whatever service intervals that client needs. At that next service interval, it's just simply filled up with distilled water. So there's no other additives, there's no special servicing, there's no special skills needed. Simply your mechanics or technicians, just like they refill their oils, refill their distilled water once at their service intervals. And the unit keeps operating for 3 to 5 years before you check the plates. So it's once you've bought it, there's not much you have to do with it.
Nice. Before we finish then, let me ask you more generally about the industry. Do you see any trends or anything to look out for heading into the 2026 coming ahead of us?
We see a lot of things coming off that used to be a hot topic, where hydrogen and wind power and solar and batteries we're going to save the world within 5 or 10 years.
Right, maybe last year or the year before we were talking about
the
that.
last 2 or 3 years now,
right.
we've seen a lot of backpedaling. Still a lot of ambition to move forward, which is fantastic, especially events like this. And in some cases, it definitely has moved forward, and there's been some great advancements. But when you come back to the size diesel engines that we operate in the mining space, and not just the mining space, it could be rubbish trucks, it could be buses, it could be small pilot vessel boats or anything like that. It's all of those diesel engines that are too big to consume. The technology just isn't there. Like, we're not even close.
Right.
So we're seeing a lot of attention come back towards this product, particularly because we're from a mining state, but because of all these other initiatives are really starting to pull back from their endeavours, because it's just not there. We think this will be still there for 10 to 15 years. And what's the cost of just decommissioning all these machines now? What's the carbon footprint if we have a 2-year-old machine that has 10 years worth of life left in it? What's the carbon footprint to just put that out to pasture and try some a massive battery or a massive solar array or build some wind turbines? What's that carbon footprint?
It wouldn't be cheap, and it wouldn't be good for the environment.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure. Well, thank you for sharing your insights with us today, and good luck with the future of your company.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Thomas reporting for ABing News. I'm here today at the World Hydrogen Expo, and my next guest is Ms. Audrey Ma from Refire.
Hello, Tom.
Could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing?
So my name is Audrey Ma. I come from a company called Refire. We're headquartered in Shanghai, and we're one of the leading hydrogen technology companies in China, having deployed more than 10,000 fuel cell systems. And many of those are serving the mobility sectors, and some serving stationary power sectors as well. We have about 26% of China's market share, and we have 350 million kilometers already on our fuel cell systems through somebody's bus or truck.
Okay. And you were one of the speakers here today.
Yes.
So what was the contents of your speech?
Right, so I was given a very large topic, which is to talk about the North Asia's hydrogen status and development. And there's a lot happening in the North Asia, in particular China, South Korea, as well as Japan. So I started by giving a snapshot of where we are collectively in 2025. But all the three countries are very different also, it has its own, have their own characteristics. So China specifically has very strong momentum in hydrogen production, particularly in renewables, so green hydrogen production, counting to be about 50% of the global volume and 56% of the capacity installed. And matching that is a 35% of the global offtake, binding offtake already secured, so that we're seeing this very good matching of supply and demand in China from renewables and offtake, particularly coming from ammonia, refinery and power, accounting to be about 80% of that offtake pool. And this is going toward 2030. So we will be seeing good momentum in China. In Korea and in Japan, also very good movement, more concentrated in coal-firing plant, using ammonia to decarbonize some of the younger coal power plant fleets. So in Korea, we have this program called CHPS, which the government has heavily incentivizing the power companies to use ammonia to decarbonize their plant. And the ambition is to go completely renewable through hydrogen in the gas turbines. But let's not forget the harder to obey sectors, and that's what's beginning first. And in Japan, there is the CFD program, Contract for Difference program, which has earmarked $20 billion to subsidize, again, the power sectors to begin with. And Japan, and both Japan and Korea, Japan in particular, has a shortage of renewable power supply, hydrogen therefore, renewable hydrogen as well as ammonia. So we're looking at quite a bit of import in these two countries in the nearby continents. And the 20 billion earmarked the first phase is already oversubscribing. So it's a good momentum too in these two countries as we talk about the larger hydrogen scope. And equally important and interestingly, these three countries are very strong in hydrogen mobility. which collectively we believe this is the entry point that's going to unlock what we call hydrogen economy. I think this is coined by Japan. And the chemical segment, the powers, this is powering the economy, but it's very far from our everyday life. But mobility, it's outside, the bus, it's the truck that's delivering.
It's more immediate for the average person.
It's right there. And in the case of Korea, more than 40,000 of Hyundai Nexos are deployed here. So that's your car that you're driving on a daily basis. So that's very, very, very tangible. So altogether, these three countries, we have deployed and registered more than 85,000 vehicles. And that's more than 80% of the global volume. Mind you, most of the global vehicles are produced out of these three countries. So this is a very strong momentum. And individually, these momentum were built collectively by consistent, logical, and encompassing good policies, as well as very strong industrial alliances on the ground. In Japan in particular, more of a focus will be concentrated in 5 selected regions, with Tokyo being a very good leading example of a mixture of buses, trucks, as well as taxis. They plan to deploy 600 taxis by 2030. Good program to watch. In Korea is already leading the pack in terms of passenger vehicle deployment, particularly for the Korean market. And the government has just announced a new program to convert 21,000 buses by 2030. So that's going to gain a lot of momentum in the next 5 years.
So we might be seeing them out on the streets soon.
You can already see them. There are over 2,000 buses already in Korea. And times 10 in 5 years. So you will be seeing them. And make sure to take one. It's a very nice ride. And in China, the country has adopted a very distinct commercial vehicle approach. So of all the 31,000 vehicles that are deployed in China, 99% of those are buses and trucks, particularly heavy-duty trucks. In the past 2 years, more than 70% of the total vehicle deployed are in the heavy-duty segment. And again, that's put together by a very cohesive program that started in 2021 with 5 city clusters, which encompass over 40 different cities in these 5 clusters. And we have good support for vehicle, for the refueling station build-up, and as well as operations. And now we're seeing all these vehicles deployed through bulk logistics, e-commerce, that are used in bus transit in cities as well as coach transits, intracity. We're seeing port decarbonization made possible by these yard trucks, as well as some of these heavy equipments are also being fueled by hydrogen via fuel cell, such as reach stackers and gantry cranes. In addition to that, we are also moving mobility beyond just road mobility in China. We are deploying locomotives that are fueled by fuel cell for export market. The first train that we did with CRRC is now deployed in Chile, and mining trucks. And going beyond just mobility, or is complementing the battery electric mobility, we're using hydrogen via fuel cell, building superchargers that are completely off-grid, super fast to be deployed, and can fuel the uptick of the battery electric adoption that we're seeing, also ramping up fast here in this region. So of our supercharger service, we already have more than 120 subscribed users. So instead of trickle charging, they can charge a 800-volt platform in about 12 minutes to 18 minutes, depending on how big of a car it is. So we're looking at hydrogen for mobility tangibly in these 3 countries, China, Korea, and Japan. And again, it goes without saying that all this wonderful work that's done is a collective effort by the partnership, government and industry, and also within industry, of everything from electrons to molecules, to the fuel cell technology, to the OEM's effort, to the fleet effort, to the drivers. and to the after-sales service. And this has to be put together in one envelope for it to work. And we are leading the pack out of East Asia region. So I was very proud to present this deck to the audience, and it was very large undertaking.
Well, you clearly have a lot of knowledge about this field, and I thank you for sharing a little bit of your insight with us here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This is Thomas reporting for AVing News. Thank you for joining us today as we're here at the World Hydrogen Expo. My guest is Ms. Ivana Jamelkova, the CEO of the Hydrogen Council.
Great
Welcome.
to be here. Thank you so much.
Could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your organization?
Absolutely. First of all, it's a great pleasure to be here with you at the World Hydrogen Expo. The Hydrogen Council is the world's largest and only business alliance led by chief executive officers. So we bring together some of the greatest leaders and builders in hydrogen from 20 different countries around the world. And it's been our great pleasure to be here in Seoul with our Global CEO Summit, that annual event that brings together the top of the movers and shakers in hydrogen.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds, I've already talked to quite a few of them. So
Brilliant.
I understand you just finished your speech, so can you tell us a little bit about the contents of your speech this year?
Absolutely. Look, there's a lot of noise in hydrogen right now. Open the newspapers and you get the full menu of projects moving forward, but projects not moving forward at the same time. So we are here to really bring clarity into the conversation. And I shared numbers from our annual hydrogen progress tracker, and those are extremely clear. 10x is the key one. Capital commitments in hydrogen have grown 10 times in just the last 5 years. And the industry has now surpassed 110 billion in committed capital. So that's a phenomenal news. At the same time, we're experiencing that natural filtration of the pipeline whereby strong projects are moving forward and others are abandoned because they have perhaps not been viable from the start. So navigating that with clarity is absolutely critical, and the CEOs who came together over the last 3 years could not be clearer. This is a really exciting and pivotal moment in hydrogen, and we need to continue that growth trajectory.
Well, obviously, as you mentioned, this is a developing industry.
That's right.
And as I've talked to people, I've noticed there's a lot of excitement about the future of the industry, and also, as you mentioned, some uncertainty about where it might lead.
Right.
So what's your take on that? How do you see the next few years maybe developing for the hydrogen industry?
Look, it's all about building on that strong foundation. 510 projects have now passed final investment decision, moved into construction or in operation. So hydrogen is happening, and we really see that in reality every day. It's still in the ground, right? Shovels in the ground. The industry is building. But there are challenges, and we need to address them head on. The number one being demand. Although we have seen good progress, we really need to firm this up, and this is where government action comes into play. So having that clear, pragmatic, ambitious policy that really drives the industry forward is fundamental. And also on the industry side, we need to do our homework. We need to make sure that the ecosystem across the value chain really collaborates, comes together to open up this market. So the message from our CEOs could not be clearer. The theme of our event was lead, build, deliver. And this is where we want to walk the talk and show that we can make hydrogen happen.
Well, that sounds great. And I know, of course, our viewers are Korean, so there are a lot of Korean companies or maybe
That's
Korean
right.
policymakers who might be watching this and wondering where do they play a part in that growth and development that you're talking about?
So we were incredibly fortunate to welcome to our summit some of the key Korean leaders as well, whether it's the CEOs of Lotte, SK, Iljin, Doosan, Kolon, and obviously Hyundai Motor Group, which serves as a co-chair of our organization, co-chair of the Hydrogen Council. So we had the enormous privilege to have Jay Chang, Vice Chair of Hyundai Motor Group, with us. And we were very impressed by what's happening in Korea, because the close collaboration between government and industry could not be clearer. And we were very inspired by that. Also hearing the words of Minister Kim, who was so kind to make himself available for us. And really good dialogue. And I think there's a lot to be looking forward to here in Korea, and really bring that inspiration and the lessons with us as we travel back home to our various countries from this summit.
All right, well, that sounds great. I can definitely feel your enthusiasm, and from everyone that I've talked to, actually, the same enthusiasm is
the energy
present.
is brilliant, isn't it? You walk through the expo and you see how people are channeling their skills, their know-how, their IP into what the future holds. So we're really energized, we're really pumped up and ready to go.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you for being here and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're here at the World Hydrogen Expo, and I'm joined by Ms. Yeonmi Lim, who is a senior manager with KPX, Korean Power Exchange.
Yes.
And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your organization?
저는 전력거래소 시장혁신처 수소시장팀에서 근무를 하고 있는 임연희라고 하고요. 저는 이제 수소발전 2차 시장을 설계하고 운영하는 업무를 맡고 있습니다.
And I understand you just finished your speech at the conference. So can you tell us a little about the contents of your speech?
저는 청정수소 발전 시장에 대해서 이제 한국과 일본에 대해서 시장에 대해서 이제 저희가 간단하게 개요 설명을 했고요. 이제 앞선 부분은 저희 한국의 청정수소 발전 시장에 대한 입찰 시장을 소개드렸고 이제 뒷부분은 일본의 장기 탈탄소 용량 시장에 대한 간략한 소개를 진행하였습니다.
Yeah, I know I've talked to many people who talked about China, Korea, Japan as the three big powers in Northeast Asia in the hydrogen market. So can you tell us a little bit more about that relationship and the dynamic between those countries?
지금 현재 이제 한국에서 수소 발전을 준비하고 있는 사업자들이 이제 저렴한 중국 쪽에 혹은 인도 또 다른 또 미국이나 이런 부분에서 이제 수소를 도입하는 걸로 알고 있고, 그래서 이제 중국은 수소를 생산하는 수소의 수전의 생산을 좀 적극적으로 지원을 하고 있는 나라로 알고 있고요. 일본은 용량 시장을 개설을 함으로써 이제 수소 발전을 좀 확대시키려는 노력을 보이고 있는 것으로 알고 있습니다. 그래서 한국은 이제 해외에서 수소를 도입을 하고 또 국내에서도 국내 수소 생산을 활용할 수 있도록 지원책을 마련을 하고 있고, 그것의 일환으로 청정수소 발전 시장을 개설한 바 있습니다.
And of course, we're in Korea, so there's a lot of Korean viewers. So Korean companies in the hydrogen industry, or maybe policymakers, government, what advice do you have to maybe further the development of Korean companies in this global market?
앞으로 이제 저희 청정수소 발전 시장에서는 이제 많은 분들이 약간 이야기가 나오는 것처럼 저희가 석탄 화력 발전을 폐지를 해야 되기 때문에 저희 청정수소 발전 시장에서는 아마 석탄 암모니아 혼소는 앞으로 진입하기가 조금 어려울 것 같고, 저희가 제한을 좀 검토를 고려하고 있습니다. 그리고 이제 2035년 NDC를 달성하기 위해서 이제 그 에너지 믹스와의 정합성을 고려해서 저희가 물량이라든지 이런 부분을 좀 개선할 생각이 있고요. 그래서 이제 또한 저희가 해외 도입 수소도 물론 이제 현재 대규모 수소 그 공급이 없는 상황에서 해외에서 수소를 수입하는 부분도 있겠지만, 앞으로는 좀 사업자분들이 국내 수소를 생산하는 기술을 좀 개발하고 또 저렴한 가격에 그렇게 수소를 생산해서 도입할 수 있는 그런 구조가 좀 마련되면 청정수소 발전이 좀 더 확대되지 않을까라고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
And finally, if we look ahead in the future, what trends do you think we're going to see that we should be aware of now in the hydrogen market? Or maybe something in the past that has changed now? So we thought was going to be a trend, now not a trend. Future, new trends, something like that.
지금은 저희가 혼소 발전을 좀 위주로 준비를 하고 있지만 앞으로 미래에는 이제 100% 전소 발전이 개발이 되어야 되고 또 이제 인프라를 구축해서 이제 직접적으로 수소를 주입하는 이제 그런 부분이 좀 빨리 개발이 되어야 되지 않나. 그리고 그런 부분이 활성화돼서 주목을 받을 거라고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here today and sharing your insights with us.
감사합니다.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name's Thomas, and I'm reporting here from the World Hydrogen Expo. My next guest is Mr. Marcus Exenberger, who is the co-founder and executive director of H2 Global. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work of your foundation?
Yeah, like you mentioned already, Marcus Exenberger is my name. So I started 5 years the endeavor or the development of H2 Global as an instrument to overcome this chicken and egg situation. Why is nobody investing in hydrogen, in clean hydrogen or green hydrogen? Right. And because of that, we developed the concept of H2 Global. H2 Global is more or less we are simulating a market for these clean and green hydrogen. We are acting as a real off-taker, so we are signing firm contracts and we are reducing the risk in the market. So what we are doing is a so-called double auction mechanism.
Okay.
We are buying hydrogen from the producer for a 10-year contract period of time, and we are selling the products time divergent into the market for 1 year, 2 year or 3 year contracts. We are doing that in a most transparent manner. So everything we are doing is we are publishing everything. So we are sending out the prices to send price signals into the market, and we are reducing the regulatory risk because we are taking over the risk and
to create stability for the entire market.
Stability, but let's say one of the most important things for us is now really to create liquidity into the market.
Okay.
Just to make sure that deals can be made, that the FID can be closed and all that.
Right, I've been talking to many people so far, and I think almost every person has mentioned one of the main things is cost competitiveness with competing technologies. And so this would be a part of that too, I presume. By adding stability, it makes a more competitive market.
And certainty for the off-taker, certainty for the financial sector and so on.
And I know you were one of the speakers, you just finished a little earlier. So could you tell us about the contents of your speech today?
Yeah, that was first of all to describe what is H2 Global for, and show solutions now how the Korean government could make use of that. We are doing H2 Global. H2 Global is a global platform. It's already mentioned in our name. We are executing currently auctions on behalf of different governments. We have a little bit less than 10 billion US dollar available, so we are, I would say, one of the biggest off-takers right now worldwide. We are the biggest platform for trading hydrogen or clean hydrogen, green hydrogen and derivatives. And it was my intention today to introduce, first of all, the idea, the concept, the vision of H2 Global, but as well to show how it could be implemented here in Korea or for the Korean market.
I was going to ask you about that because, of course, our viewers are Korean, and we might say K2 Global. A lot of them are also looking to enter the global market. So what advice do you have for Korean companies or maybe Korean policymakers to facilitate that entry into the global market?
I know that Korean companies are already very active in H2 Global auctions. So they are already part of it, and they are, like I said, really active in different markets with different partners within different consortia. I think Korea is one of the most interesting and will become one of the most important import markets for hydrogen and its derivatives. So if Korea really wants to play a vital role in the global market and want to, to have access to production markets, then I think more than right now is already done, is necessary and needed, and cooperation with other countries, exporting countries in the Middle East, Australia, other markets as well, is something what is for the Korean market most probably very important. Exchange of ideas, exchange of knowledge, cooperating in regards of regulation, certification, standardization. This is very important, and we are offering our services to the Korean government. We have an office in Japan. We have representatives sitting there. They're covering as well the market here in East Asia and the whole APEC region. It is an important thing for us. It is important as well to learn from the Korean experience, because the Koreans are doing as well a lot, as well in the regulatory framework. Auction is always a topic here. So having this exchange with our Korean partners is for us always an important thing.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm sure our viewers are happy to hear that too. Well, thank you for joining us today and for sharing your insights.
Real pleasure.
Good luck in the future.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Thomas, and I'm reporting today from the World Hydrogen Expo here in KINTEX, South Korea. My next guest is Mr. Mayan, who is the founder and CEO of Innovate Technologies.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Can you introduce a little bit about yourself and about the company?
Of course. So Innovation, actually, you're meeting us in a very interesting point in our time.
Okay.
In the last 8 years, we were a startup based in Israel and maturing in Korea and Japan in the last 6 years.
Okay.
And we're now moving from the startup to the scale-up stage. And we came with, of course, mineralization technology that we developed. In our mind, carbon is not a problem. Carbon, it's it's a kind of material that have to be utilized and not just buried under the ground in geological storage. So what we're doing, we're actually mineralizing point source emissions. And by that, we're able to support low carbon hydrogen production. Not only the green one, but getting clean hydrogen based on methane kind of production that exists today.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about your speech. There was some platform, CCUS platform. So that's the process that you were talking about.
Exactly.
So could you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Of course. So we are not just a piece in the chain. We're bringing in some case, all the solution. So the solution is started with engaging with the chimney. Let's say steam methane reforming, standard gray hydrogen process. We're taking all the emissions to our process, and in the first step, it's a liquid processing of mineralization. We're building ammonium carbonate at that stage in very efficient way. Our carbon footprint, it's very low, the energy consumption very low, It's done in almost normal temperature and no pressure. So in this chemical physical process, we're creating an efficiency of 95% and higher. And this ammonium carbonate capture are processed with additional environmental huge problem that's called phosphogypsum. So we are anchoring the CO2 at the second stage on top of the gypsum. Now, you can ask us, where are the gypsum around the world? So there is 3 major sources for gypsum. Of course, there's the mined one, the natural one. But there's around 500 million tons that created every year.
Oh.
500 million tons. Okay, I think our imagination would stop in a full truck 50 ton.
Yeah,
okay?
I don't know what
we,
that
we
looks
can
like.
imagine. It's mountains.
Right.
Okay, so around 300 million tons created from phosphofertilizers.
Oh, okay.
So as we're going and population growing, we need fertilizers, and it's a byproduct that comes out. But it's also a byproduct that comes from other kind of separation processes of metals. And as we go to energy storage, we're consuming more metals. Okay, so it's kind of piling of this material. Other source of gypsum comes from coal power plants. So in India, 80% of the electricity comes from coal power plants. So another 200 million tons of synthetic gypsum are potential feedstocks. So those two both kind of combine through the process, and we're creating 3 end products. We're creating ammonium sulfide that it can go as is as a fertilizer in liquid or dry. We're creating sulfuric acid from this ammonium sulfide that can go to support this kind of detaching process of the metal from the calcium. And we're creating calcium carbonate. Now, calcium carbonate, it's a permanent storage of CO2. That's how nature storing it in the reality. That's kind of creating these limestones in the sea. So we're creating a synthetic or low carbon calcium carbonate that also avoiding the need of new mining of calcium carbonate. And the quality of the calcium carbonate will be highly depend on the source of the gypsum that we're using. So if we're using the worst source, let's say the phosphogypsum with a lot of impurities inside, the end product will be fit for being in construction or infrastructure layers. Quite cheap, but still usable. If we're taking the coal power plant, in our imagination, coal is dirty.
Yeah.
But in the reality, the gypsum that created there, it's a synthetic and it's quite in good quality. It's used mainly today in drywalls, but that gypsum can create a calcium carbonate for plastic and paper decarbonization. So decarbonization is not only the direct emissions, it's also the non-direct, the scope 2 and 3, and creating low carbon materials, it's one of the ways. Now, having those additional product revenue stream, enabling you not put all this cost on supporting the hydrogen production. Because once you're putting the carbon capturing, utilization, and storage just on the hydrogen, you're increasing the price of the blue, never mind, it will become maybe not so expensive.
And
like
the risk as well.
And the risks, okay? So in that case, you splitting the cost between those sectors and other products depend on the market dynamics. You can adjust yourself to the region well, and you can really enable low carbon hydrogen. In Europe, it's not called in colors anymore. Okay, you have the green, but you don't have anymore the blue. Or they call it low carbon.
Yes.
So you can create low carbon hydrogen with no CO2 emissions in very attractive price point, and that's what we need to aim. The hard to abate industry is having a hard time to adopt the idea that they need to pay 5 times higher on a hydrogen to become more environmental. It's not goals.
Not a good speech to make a sale now.
No, they can't. It's a commodity business. They have very limited margins. So you can't add like 500 times more expensive material. They will not able to digest it. But if if they're buying now, let's say the gray, and gray are used, refinery, ammonia plants, chemical plants. If you will able to bring them more environmental solution in a price of $3, maybe $3.50, or maybe later lower, very near to the price point of the gray, the ball will start to roll. Okay, and those clients will start to be using it and piling it, and then it will create the higher demand because it's kind of a chicken and egg position, it's kind of a schnitzel.
I've heard that phrase used a lot throughout the past 2 days.
Of course. I was pitching in Hamburg less than a month ago on the hydrogen and carbon capturing event. And you have kind of a feeling, a big disappointment, the market is not moving, you don't have the customer that are willing to buy.
However, with some optimism though for these new technologies.
We have to be optimists, we have to build baby steps forward, we need to correlate the expectations.
Yes.
This is a bigger
and
issue.
Practical realities.
Practical reality, things are going slower. It's not presentations, it's real hardware, setting sites.
Absolutely.
It takes time. We need to be much more patient. Because when we are not, we are actually the one that tilting the market. Right. We're creating kind of non-reasonable reality and then we get disappointed from that. So I think we're bringing additional opportunity here of carbon to value. And we're scaling now in Israel to a blue hydrogen valley. So it's kind of was a vision of mine 3 years ago. It's already now under contract between fertilizer. So the overlapping position of those clusters are crucial. Because again, you're splitting the risk, you're splitting the cost. You have energy company, gas that like to be involved in hydrogen production based on their gas. So they're coming as a strategic partner. You have fertilizer company that's piling this 3 million ton of waste. So overlapping them, creating this opportunity of restructuring the region. And from the most the most polluted area today near the Dead Sea, to become in the future maybe very green one or very, very blue one.
Right.
Very blue one. And same, we now signed the framework agreement in Korea. So in Israel, it's now moving toward construction already. Okay. It took some time to mature it. Usually the maturity happening with some feasibility study, engineering.
Of course.
And so in Israel, it's now rolling towards the semi-commercial side in the next couple of months. In Korea, it's finished the pre-feasibility study. It's signed the framework agreement between Korean entities and some Japanese entities that involve, actually like 5 partners here. And it will go in the coming year, in the first half a year, it will be doing the feasibility and engineering with the purpose to start to build it up at 2027.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing this great technology with us and good luck in the future.
Thank you very much for
My pleasure.
hosting me and thanks.
Thank you. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here at the World Hydrogen Expo. This is day 2, and my next guest is Mr. Yoshimura from the Kawasaki Heavy Industries. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much today.
Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your company?
Yes, our company Kawasaki Heavy Industry is basically a manufacturer of transportation equipment such as shipbuilding, the aerospace, rolling stock, motorcycle is very famous, and robotics and energy equipment. Each department is working on the development of hydrogen-related products. Today, I have presentation and focusing liquefied hydrogen carrier ship.
Liquefied hydrogen carrier ships.
Because it's the requested topic to me today from your office, the event office.
So it's possible even for huge ships to be powered by hydrogen?
Yes. Now today I introduce 3 steps for the development. So one is the first pilot project. The second is commercialization demonstration and the commercialization. So we achieved a pilot project, small carrier ship between Australia and Japan in 2021. And we are preparing a large-scale carrier ship. I have presentation for that development today.
And that's all powered with the hydrogen? all of the transportation is powered with hydrogen fuel sources.
Yes, basically, as you know, the hydrogen is very various using.
Yes.
For that. So,
Right.
that's for mobility and power and the steel making or many things. But we need massive hydrogen. We need massive. So we procure, we import. We have to. So,
yes, I was going to ask about that too. I think both Korea and Japan developing their technology a lot, but they don't have the resources, the material, so they have to import from other countries.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest challenges right now for developing the industry?
So these days, you know, inflation.
Okay.
More very inflation make hydrogen cost increasing. So very high cost
Yes.
by inflation, and also by the Japanese yen exchange rate high.
Yes.
So plant cost is very higher now before.
Right.
Compared to before.
Well, let's more positively then. What do you think are some good possibilities or opportunities in the next years for the hydrogen industry?
Next year.
What trends do you think we can see?
So basically, hydrogen technology is still immature.
Yes.
Still immature.
Yes.
So we have to work steadily develop. Very important, we are thinking. So our company is steadily to develop the hydrogen-related products and carrier ship also.
But you think one day we might see for industrial use and maybe even commercial use this kind of hydrogen-powered product?
Now we forecast from 2030.
Okay.
So now I mentioned to you that our carrier ship project, a pilot project is finished and achieved the pilot project.
Yes.
We will construct the large scale carrier ship. And we will demonstrate large scale carrier ship by 2030.
Okay.
So after the demonstration, we will commercialize, connecting from overseas by large scale carrier ship.
Well, that sounds really interesting. Maybe one day we can have a hydrogen-powered Kawasaki motorcycle. That would be really fun.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me and for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me here in the beautiful KINTEX exhibition hall. We're here for the World Hydrogen Expo for 2025. My next guest is Mr. Medipur from KINTEX in Sweden.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure. Could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your company as well?
Yes, my name is Amin Mehdipur. I'm Business Development Manager at KINTEX AB, which is located in south of Sweden, a small town called Lund. The company was formed about 35 years ago. It was two researchers within the catalyst technology who has founded the company. And ever since then, we have been serving customers within the electrolyzer and fuel cell application, fuel reforming, syngas and e-fuel production. And we have a very unique patented catalyst coating technology, which we call catalyte coating.
Okay.
And that's the base of all our solutions. And basically it's about coating the catalyst on any surface, mostly metal surfaces. And these metal surfaces and the flexibility of that gives us the possibility to come up with very unique and compact and efficient reactor designs for the hydrogen ecosystem.
Okay.
Yep.
And I know you were one of the speakers here today as well. So could you share a little bit about your speech and what the topic was?
Of course. I actually explained a little bit about our coating technology technology, how it is done, different 3 stages of the coating, which enable us to come up with the unique design of the reactors. I also explained about the fuel processing system that Katator can offer, which is a fuel reforming. It's an extremely unique technology which we call KATAREX. And KATAREX means a catalyzed heat exchanger, which means that we can catalyze both sides of a heat exchanger, one vessel, with different reaction catalysts. So with one vessel, we can do the job of 2 or 3 different reactors, which is quite important in the decentralized mobility and mobilized application within the hydrogen ecosystem, where they suffer from the space, actually. So that's how it works. For example, I gave some examples about some of the customers that we have developed this technology for, that they can use the on-off off gases from the fuel cell, get oxidized, generate heat. The heat goes to the other side of the reactor or heat exchanger, and from the other side you can send the fuel to be reformed. And all these reactions are happening in only one standalone vessel.
Okay.
Yep.
And I presume you're looking at Korea as a potential market for that technology as well, then?
Yes, absolutely. Korea has a huge potential. As we see, these guys have recently had a new government, and the government is extremely ambitious. Yes. And I have heard from lots of Korean companies that there are several plans for the near future. Some of them has already been commercialized, which is very good news for us. So that's a really focus area for us right now, actually. So we are collaborating with a Korean agent, and that shows the importance of the market to us.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Maybe the final question then, looking into the future a little bit, what trends do you anticipate in the coming years within the market?
Yeah, I have seen in several exhibitions and conferences that the technology is getting more efficient and sometimes smaller. Considering the EMO standards currently being practiced and discussed about, and the future regulations, it seems that we're gonna go toward a little bit more compact designs for mobility and decentralized application. We hear a lot about these data centers for the artificial intelligence, and those centers needs fuels, fuel reformer, and decentralized power generation solutions. So I guess that's going to be a hot topic in the near future.
Right.
We hope so.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and
thank you
good
so
luck
much
in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm very honored to be joined today by Mr. Javier Bray from the Spanish National Hydrogen Association. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me.
Me too. Could you introduce yourself briefly and tell us a little bit about the work that the association is doing?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Javier Bray, and I am the president of the Spanish National Hydrogen Association. The association was created in 2002, so we are now 23 years old, and we are currently more than 400 members.
Oh.
In our association, we have members across all the hydrogen value chain, from hydrogen production to distribution, transport, utilization, and so on. And of course, we have members from Spain, but also from abroad. We have members even from Korea. We have a strong international activity. We have bilateral agreements with more than 20 countries, because we strongly believe that now we are not in a status in which we should compete for hydrogen. This is not a competition, because the market is not mature enough.
Yes.
It's a moment, it's an opportunity for cooperation, for collaboration. So this is what we are looking for. We are looking for a cooperation between different companies, countries, entities that want to join together the effort in order to develop the hydrogen economy.
Right. Well, I think that's the purpose of the whole World Hydrogen Expo here, is to bring all of these players together. So I know you just gave a speech as well. So could you tell us a little bit about the contents of your speech?
Yes. I have been trying to explain which is the situation of the hydrogen economy in Spain. In Spain, we have objectives, of course. The idea is to have 12 gigawatt of electrolyzers running by 2030. But at the same time, apart from the objectives, we have a census. We have a list of projects that is carried out by the association. We update this list, this census periodically. And currently, we have a census of more than 300, almost 400 projects. If you look at the census, you will realize that we could have 13 gigawatt of electrolyzers by 2030.
Okay.
Currently, we are developing almost 4 gigawatt of electrolyzers, which are now in engineering stage, under construction or FID. And the market is delayed. Of course, we are not going as fast as we expected 5 years ago.
Yes.
But in my opinion, now the projects that we can see on the pipelines are more real. We have a move from a hype in which we have a lot of projects with perhaps with not a lot of visibility or feasibility, but now we are in a stage and we have less projects in the pipelines, but more real.
Practically realizable.
Yes, with more knowledge about the market, the technology, and the real cost of the hydrogen.
So, of course, as you mentioned, you're working in Spain primarily, but here in Korea, what do you see the similarities between the Spanish situation and the Korean situation, or anything maybe the Korean policymakers could learn from the Spanish situation? Any insights about that?
I think that both countries are betting hard on hydrogen. The governments in both countries are allocating policies, funds, and also resources for the hydrogen economy. That's good. And also, in both countries, we can see a lot of response from the companies, from the industry. In the case of Spain, we have a lot of companies, as I have mentioned, but it's the same in Korea. You can go inside and check that there is a lot of interest from the companies and the industries in the country to promote the hydrogen economy. So I think that this is very important to have, of course, the political consensus, but also at the same time, the interest of the companies. And this is the same in Korea and in Spain.
Yes, I've talked to many people, and I felt that the cooperation between both government and industry,
It's
because
crucial.
as you said, it's a developing industry. What about then if we look forward a couple of years? What trends do you anticipate? Maybe if we meet again next year, what do you think we'll be talking about?
I think that in the next year, perhaps 2 years, we are going to move from 10 megawatt plants to 100 megawatt plants.
Okay.
This is going to be the first goal, to scale one order of magnitude. Of course, we want to talk about gigawatts, but in my opinion, first we are going to move from 10 to 100, and then we will move to 1,000.
Yes.
But I think this is going to be the first goal. The second goal, we are going to start with the market, hydrogen market. We have been talking about hydrogen production during the last 5 years, but now the market is moving. So the real users of the hydrogen, mainly the industry in the first step, mobility in the second step, are going to start moving. We have been learning a lot about hydrogen utilization, uses, hydrogen demand, and this is going to be also the second very important point for the next year. And third, last but not least, international cooperation. I think that we are seeing a lot of cooperation between countries, but also agreements, MOUs, companies, governments working together in the development of the hydrogen economy. This is very important because it's easier to develop the demand, to develop the market, if you are counting on a group of countries, not only one or two countries. So for me, this is going to be also very important and crucial in the next couple of years.
Well, great message about cooperation and mutual interests, as you put it. All right, well, thank you for coming today and sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is Thomas reporting from the World Hydrogen Expo in KINTEX, South Korea. My next guest is Mr. Choi, the General Manager of POSCO. Welcome. Thank you. So first, could you please introduce yourself a little and tell us about the work that POSCO is doing in the hydrogen industry?
저는 포스코홀딩스에서 탄소 중립 업무를 맡고 있는 최장희 부장이라고 합니다. 제가 오늘 포스코의 수소환원 제철 기술 개발에 대해서 발표를 드렸는데요. 포스코는 지금 수소환원 제철 기술 개발을 진행하면서 실증 사업을 추진하고 있습니다. 정부 지원을 받아서 저희가 연간 30만 톤급 규모로 28년에 이제 가동을 목표로 하고 있고 30년까지는 기술 개발을 상용화로 전환할 수 있는 기술 개발을 완료할 예정입니다. 그리고 저희가 이제 상용화 단계로 가기 위해서 저희가 이제 정부와 같이 이제 협력해야 될 이슈들이 많습니다. 청정수소를 값싸게 좀 대량으로 공급을 받아야 되는 이슈가 있기 때문에 그 부분 앞으로 저희 기업 단독으로 하기는 어려운 부분이 있어서 정부와 관련 부서와 좀 협력을 해서 상용화 단계까지 좀 빠르게 진행을 시켜서 저희가 탄소 중립 목표를 달성하기 위해서 포스코 기업 노력을 하고 있습니다.
Okay. And for POSCO specifically, why is hydrogen so important for them? What do you think this new industry can contribute to the company?
철강 산업은 기본적으로 이제 석탄을 에너지로 사용을 해 왔습니다. 탄소 외출을 줄이기 위해서는 수소로 전환을 하는 게 필수적으로 필요합니다. 그렇기 때문에 저희가 수소를 활용한 수소환원 제철 개발하고 있는 것이고요. 그것이 뭐 기업 입장뿐만 아니라 국가적인 탄소 감축 목표에도 기여할 수 있다고 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Okay. If we look to the future, maybe 2 or 3 years, what trends do you think we're going to see in the hydrogen industry?
수소가 현재 좀 기본적으로 단가가 워낙 높기 때문에 가격을 좀 낮추려는 노력들이 좀 필요합니다. 기존에 저희가 그린 수소는 워낙 재생에너지 기반의 비용이 좀 국내에서는 높기 때문에 원전을 활용한 원전의 잉여 전력을 활용한 원전 수소라든지 그리고 LNG를 개질해서 CCS 카본을 저장하는 그런 기술과 결합시켜서 블루수소를 만든다든지 다양한 형태의 이제 청정수소를 접목시켜서 이제 이런 기술 실증들이 지금 이루어지고 있거든요. 그런 것들이 같이 좀 연계가 돼서 저희 같은 철강 기업도 좀 값싼 수소를 공급받을 수 있는 체계가 빠른 시기에 갖춰져야 저희도 기술 개발을 빠르게 진행할 수 있을 걸로.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your insights.
네, 감사합니다. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're here at the World Hydrogen Expo, where I'm joined by Mr. Balashammugan. Did I say that right?
Well done.
Who is the CEO of GH2 India. Welcome.
Thanks very much for having me, Thomas.
Could you just introduce yourself briefly and also a little bit about the organization?
Lovely. So my name is Nishant Balashanmugam. I'm the founding director and CEO at GH2 India. We are a non-profit foundation, and our goal is to be a unified voice for India's green hydrogen across the world. We serve as a think tank, an industry body, an advocacy body, and we try to work with the entire sector in India. What we do is in 3 pillars: market creation, capacity building, and enabling environment. So over the last 3 years, we've held more than 50 plus convenings, roundtables, workshops, webinars, not just in India, but also in Europe, Japan, and Korea as well.
And you told me a little bit before the interview, it's a foundation, but you're also working together with industry to sort of bridge that gap, right?
Yes. So I think wherever in the sector we see vacuum in space, we try and fill that up. And notably, our biggest efforts have been in bridging the gap between different ministries across the government.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because hydrogen traditionally was with the Ministry of Oil and Gas in India.
Okay.
The National Green Hydrogen Mission is with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is a sister ministry of the Ministry of Power.
Yes.
And now in hydrogen, you're talking about offtakes with the Ministry of Fertilizers, the Ministry of Steel, the Ministry of Ports and Shipping. So you see there is this gap that exists between all of these different silos. And traditionally, these ministries worked on their own, looking at their own domain. And now suddenly hydrogen is bringing everybody together and cutting across all of these ministries and also across all of these industrial sectors.
Right.
And I think this is what I love about Korea and what they've done with the new ministry, right? The Ministry for Climate, Energy and Environment. And I think this is how the world will be in 15, 20 years because the future of a clean industrial economy is a clean industrial ministry. Right. And it cannot be the Ministry of Steel and the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Ports and Shipping in different silos.
Right, I've talked to several business leaders now, and I think they've all stressed the importance of cooperation because it is a developing market. And if it is going to take off and stand on its own feet, it requires cooperation between industries, between governments, and also between nations as well.
Yeah. I think that is also a very interesting perspective to bring to the table because today, okay, let's traditionally look at the energy sectors. It was mostly oil and gas coming out of certain geographies. Now, this new clean energy ecosystem, it shifts that power balance and resource balance, right? So countries like China and India now have an opportunity to participate in the energy economy because of the renewable energy resources we have, number one. Number two, hydrogen itself. As much as India has this potential, China has this potential, it's Korea, Japan, Taiwan, it's these economies have an hydrogen economy that already exists, right? And today, if I look at India's largest green ammonia project, which has FID, there are about 4 or 5 European partners, right? There are, of course, we all know that electrolyzers have been around for decades. Now, Indian projects are looking at European electrolyzer partnerships because that already existed over the last few decades in the chlor-alkali business. But now green hydrogen needs to be cost competitive with its, with whatever we're trying to replace it with. And now this is where China comes into play because in the last 4 or 5 years, Chinese government policies and the ecosystem that they've had has brought Chinese electrolyzers in the forefront, right? Now Europeans have taken a back seat. Now, where is India going to be in the future? And this is where I think global cooperation is important because we're not trying to decarbonize, within physical borders that I call India and you call, Korea.
Exactly.
We are all in one fishbowl. We need to decarbonize this fishbowl. So these boundaries don't matter. So how we do it should not matter, but of course, politics always takes front seat over climate.
Approach as well, yes. Right.
Exactly. So, but I think it's about balancing and navigating all of this, but global cooperation, I think, is key for the success of hydrogen.
Well, that's a great perspective for sure. I know you're going to be one of the speakers here later today and part of the roundtable. So could you give us a little sneak peek about the contents of your speech, perhaps?
So I think for me, my message is very singular. My message is about what India can offer to the world, right? Because India traditionally is it's not a country you would even think of when you think about importing energy. India traditionally is it's an importer of energy itself. We never exported energy, right? At least in copious amounts, perhaps power to Bangladesh and Nepal, who are neighboring countries, but never to large economies. And before the end of the decade, India is going to start doing that. Indian green hydrogen producers have committed more than 11 million tons of projects, right? Now, because of the weak demand signals in the market, you're only seeing about 1.5 to 2 million in advanced stages in development phases. But if the market is created and there are enough policy drivers that can enable this, India will be at the forefront. And for anybody looking at China plus one, India is the option, right? And India is also well positioned geographically to export to East Asia, Japan and Korea, and also to Europe, right? The other ecosystem advantages, India has not just the renewable resource that's available, but also the manpower, right? India produces engineers by the second, right? And we all know India is the IT hub or the IT back office, but it's also the back office for clean energy. Today, Nucera has 80 people in India, and there's not a project in India they're working on. They're working on global projects. Same with Linde and Plug Power and Siemens. So India has that back end for the clean energy ecosystem with the engineers and the support that they can provide. In addition to that, I think the Indian government is unanimous that we have to work towards a net zero world. And for that, if any way we can contribute, is something we will do with total commitment.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting perspective how, because hydrogen is not just developed or dependent on these raw resources, suddenly players who we don't traditionally associate with it can now enter the energy market and be really active. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your insights, and good luck with your speech.
My pleasure. Thanks very much, Thomas.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Thomas reporting for AV News, and I'm very honored to be here today with the Vice President of Hyundai Motors, Mr. ㅡㅡㅡ Kim. Welcome.
감사합니다.
So I know you just gave a speech at the expo today. Could you tell us a little bit about the contents of your speech?
제가 오늘 사실은 가장 강조하고 싶었던 거는 수소가 과연 수소 기술과 수소 모빌리티가 과연 어떤 현재와 미래에 어떤 위치에 있고 또 어떤 것이 중요한지를 한번 강조하고 싶었습니다. 그래서 제가 자동차 산업이 지금 100년 만에 가장 큰 변화를 겪고 있는데 이 100년 만에 겪고 있는 변화들을 한 3가지 정도의 그 카테고리로 한번 제가 분류를 해봤고 거기에서 과연 수소가 어느 위치에 있는지를 한번 전달해주고 싶었습니다. 첫 번째로 전동화가 있고 그다음에 디지털화가 있고 세 번째로 서비스화가 있습니다. 그래서 과연 이 부분에서 전동화라는 것에서 수소차라는 것이 굉장히 중요한 역할을 담당할 수 있는데요. 전동화라는 것이 모든 지금 자동차 회사가 추구하고 있고 또 탄소를 줄이고 온실가스를 저감하는 굉장히 중요한 습관입니다. 그래서 전동화 영역에서는 전기차가 있을 수도 있고 수소차가 있을 수도 있고 또 전기차와 수소차가 결합된 그런 형태가 될 수도 있습니다. 그래서 또 어떤 새로운 기술이 들어와서 이 전동화에 또 다른 혁신을 가져올 수도 있어서 저는 굉장히 이 전동화에 굉장히 좋은 핵심적인 기술이고 하나의 옵션으로서 그 수소차가 있다고 오늘 굉장히 중점을 두고 말씀드리고 싶었습니다.
We know that the use of hydrogen technology for automotive transport is really a new field, and so there are still challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. So could you explain a little bit about what some of the challenges are, and also why people are so excited about this new technology?
그 수소 모빌리티와 수소차에 있어서 가장 큰 도전 요소는 역시 이 수소 에너지라는 것이 기본적으로 기술적인 에너지입니다. 항상 그러듯이 기술이 처음 들어올 때는 굉장히 비용이 높습니다. 그렇지만 굉장히 빠른 속도로 그리고 현재의 속도는 정말 기술의 혁신 속도가 빠릅니다. 그것이 2차 전지 분야에서 한번 보여줬고 또 재생에너지의 태양광 풍력 같은 분야에서 보여줬는데 굉장히 빠른 속도로 가격이 저감됩니다. 수소도 이러한 경로를 반드시 따라갈 거라고, 지금에 있어서 가장 큰 도전이지만 이러한 경로를 따라갈 거라고 생각하고, 소비자들이 지금도 한국에서 4만 대 이상의 수소 승용차가 돌아다니고 있습니다. 소비자가 분명히 여기에 대한 매력을 갖고 있다는 겁니다. 저는 이 수소차가 어떤 다른 여타 인더스트리에서 있는 것처럼 락인 이펙트가 있다고 생각합니다. 수소차를 한번 타본 고객은, 저도 한번 타봤습니다만 반드시 이것을 다시 선택하고 여기에 장점을 운전하면서 느낄 수 있는 그런 이동 수단이라고 생각합니다.
If we look a little bit in the future then, what can we expect then from this technology in the future? You mentioned actually seeing real hydrogen-powered vehicles. Is that something we can expect in the near future, or?
이 수소라는 것, 이거는 또 에너지이면서 에너지 캐리어입니다. 이 수소라는 것이 이 모든 전반 산업에 지금은 서서히 변화시키고 있지만 어느 시점에 굉장히 사회를 크게 변화시킬 수 있다고 생각합니다. 그래서 이 수소가 꼭 모빌리티 분야뿐만이 아니라 이 수소라는 건 기본적으로는 수소 에너지를 쓰고 또 연료전지, 저희가 갖고 있는 퓨얼셀, 연료전지 기술이라는 걸 가지고 전기를 만드는 장치이기 때문에 전기가 활용될 수 있는 모든 인더스트리나 모든 그런 애플리케이션에 모두 적용될 수 있고, 이게 서서히 변화가 오겠지만 어느 순간에는 반드시 오고 굉장히 사회를 크게 변화시킬 거라고 생각하고 있습니다.
And finally, of course, we're in Korea and Hyundai is one of the leaders in the field in Korea. Where do you see Korean companies and their position in the global market? What do they have to contribute in the global market?
사실 지금 글로벌 수소 산업을 이끌어가고 있는 CEO들의 모임인 수소위원회라는 게 있고, 바로 이번 주에 한국에서 그게 개최됐는데 거기에서의 한국 기업의 위상은 상당히 높다고 생각합니다. 그런데 이 한국 기업이나 한국 산업의 이 수소에서의 그런 장점들이라든지 이렇게 우리가 잘하고 있는 점들은 사실 정부가 굉장히 큰 정책적 일관성을 가지고 있고 또 비전을 제시해주고 인더스트리를 굉장히 주도해주고 있기 때문에 가능한 일이라고 생각하고, 앞으로도 아마 이런 것이 계속 유지될 것이라고 이렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 또 이것은 뭐 한국만 해서 뭐 달성할 수 없는 목표이기 때문에 아마 동참하는 국가들이 계속 늘어나고 어느 순간 또 굉장히 큰 변화에 다 같이 함께 변화를 만들어갈 수 있는 소재라고 생각합니다.
Great. Do you have maybe a final comment for people about this industry, something they might not know that you think is very exciting that you'd like to share?
저는 사실 이 변화가 서서히 온다는 거는 그렇게 한 번에 뭔가에 빠져들고 이런 건 없지만 이 서서한 변화의 와중에 있습니다. 다만 이게 우리가 수소는 제가 보기에도 수소 하나로 그것을 한정해서 보기보다는 과연 지금 산업을 변화시키고 있는 AI라든지 로보틱스라든지 이런 연관 산업들, 그리고 또 다른 연관 정유화학이 될 수도 있고 반도체가 될 수도 있고 실제 그런 변화가 일어나고 있고 또 바이오 산업이 될 수도 있고 이런 호리존틀리 그리고 버티클리 이렇게 수소가 과연 어떻게 연결되고 어떤 전후방으로 영향을 주고 다른 산업과 다른 기술들과 어떻게 결합되고 하는지 이런 걸 본다면 훨씬 더 매력적이고 굉장히 흥미로울 거라고 생각합니다.
Right, still a very exciting and developing industry as a whole, as you mentioned. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today, and good luck in the future as well.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me. We're here at the World Hydrogen Expo, where I'm joined by Nico. Thank you for joining me.
Well, nice to meet you, Thomas. It's a pleasure.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. I'm a researcher on hydrogen geopolitics, hydrogen markets, and hydrogen strategies globally. And I'm with the Canada Research Chair in Clean Hydrogen based in Quebec.
Okay, and I understand you were one of the speakers here today.
That is correct. I was presenting earlier today on 2025 as a possible turning point for the hydrogen economy and hydrogen policy at the global scale.
Well, that's interesting because I've been talking to a lot of people now, and they mentioned that in the past few years there was maybe a bit of disappointment about the development of the industry, but now it seems like people are refocusing and looking at things more practically. So is that the turning point that you might be talking about?
Kind of, but that's not how I see it. Basically, people have indeed in 2021, 2022, 23 even, they were at their emotional peak of inflated expectations with hydrogen.
Right.
And actually, this is something that is usual to any kind of innovative industry that burgeons one way or another in the economic space. So basically, here it's hydrogen, it used to be AI, it used to be so many other things. What we're seeing now in 2025 is this. Indeed, people who have believed, maybe more than they should have, in these inflated expectations are disappointed. But the vast majority of people in the hydrogen industry are not immune to what's happening, in the sense that they know that there was going to be a time where a natural attrition of this hydrogen industry would come. And this time has come in 2024 and 2025, based on factors that are endogenous to the hydrogen economy, but also based on many factors that are totally exogenous to the hydrogen economy. You can think about the rise of the cost of capital, the rise of inflation.
Inflation was mentioned, yes.
Geopolitics, of course, having an impact, especially after the war in Ukraine starting in 22, which has basically completely changed the environment in which low carbon hydrogen was developing. So, I mean, there's plenty of factors like that. But at the same time, consolidation is a good thing, because consolidation is a natural step towards a market credibility for any innovation in the world. Hydrogen is just right there.
Right. Well, from a research perspective then, since you are a researcher, why is it then that people still have so much positive excitement for hydrogen as a potential fuel source and what we can do with it in the future?
Well, hydrogen, and that is a scientific consensus at global level, hydrogen as in low carbon hydrogen and as in natural or electrolytic, the lowest carbon hydrogens possible, is absolutely necessary to reach carbon neutrality by 2050 or whenever we're supposed to reach it. Right. So if we want to stay under the 2 degrees in the Paris Agreement framework, then basically we need hydrogen at some point. The big question is where that hydrogen will come from and in what capacity countries will start to harness this hydrogen economy. Where will they position themselves in this hydrogen economy? We've heard many things over the past, say, 5-10 years even. But what is certain today is that now that technologies are mature, that we can say there's a real business reality to hydrogen, with a sweet spot between demand, firm offtake on the one hand, and offer, meaning firm production capacity being installed in construction or having passed FID, this sweet spot being around 4 million tons per annum by 2030.
Okay.
Now that we're reaching this sweet spot, people, meaning industries, researchers of course, but more importantly maybe countries and societies, can start organizing themselves around this new hydrogen era. So of course 4 million tons per annum, it means only by 2040, it means only roughly 4% of the global hydrogen demand being supplied by low carbon hydrogen supplies. But once again, in every single burgeoning industry, you've got thresholds of market adoption.
The same patterns, the same cycles.
Exactly. So basically, once an industry, like an innovation in an industry, reaches 2% of adoption, it means that the early adopters have believed in this economy, in this industry, in this new technology, basically. And it's here to stay. Now, there are countries, starting with Korea, in which for segments, certain segments of the hydrogen economy, we are now seeing hydrogen reaching not just the first early adopters threshold, but the first market mainstream adoption thresholds. Here in Korea, the fact that by the end of this year, Koreans will have more than 50,000 fuel cell electric vehicles on the streets running. This is a major psychological threshold and market adoption threshold that is being reached. We're seeing that still in Korea as well with FC, so fuel cell electric buses, with in the first half of 2025 alone, more than 19% market share for fuel cell electric buses within the segment of decarbonized buses here in Korea. So meaning that in this segment, in Korea, hydrogen has gone past the early adopters threshold, but also has gone past the first threshold for mainstream market adoption.
Right.
So of course this is due to a lot of like subsidies being poured into this industry. But beyond the subsidies, what we need to look at in Korea is the policy coordination of the whole nation around 5-6 industrial champions which are delivering. And that is why in Korea we have a model that is very interesting, a mid-sized market in which hydrogen is burgeoning, starting to work, starting to deliver, and it's a proof, not a promise, a proof that hydrogen is definitely here to stay.
Great. What do you think we can expect to see then in the future? I know everyone's looking for trends or things to pick up on. Do you have any thing to add to that?
I had a presentation full of that, but just in one sentence. If hydrogen is here to stay because we've got hard proof, evidence-based market proof that hydrogen is currently starting to deliver, it means that if you're not investing in hydrogen now in 2026, you're gonna lose the 2027, or you're gonna miss the 2027 to 2030 big improvement, big development of this hydrogen economy. The policy is now becoming more and more mature after years of negotiations, hesitations, back and forth, stop and go, and so on. So the policy is becoming mature, the industry is becoming more and more mature. We've got manufacturing capacity, which is reaching capacity that is significant globally, starting with Korea, China, but also now India, Europe, of course. So it's a global movement, and it's not a movement that is limited to rich OECD countries. It's also happening in the so-called global south. It's also happening in the BRICS. It's a global movement, and it's a global movement because beyond the costs, beyond the climate aspects, hydrogen has the ability for many societies around the world to actually provide resilience. Resilience vis-à-vis the climate, of course, but resilience from a geopolitical point of view, resilience vis-à-vis hardships created by leaders here and there in the world who are just trying to make a name for themselves.
You mean in terms of fuel independence and things like that?
Exactly, and bring everyone to the wall. No, hydrogen is a tool to basically avoid being tracked, pulled into this kind of nonsense going forward. So there's plenty of reasons why hydrogen is interesting, but more importantly, the societal aspect, which is often overlooked at conferences like this, is absolutely critical to understand what's going on.
Great. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. You've given us a lot of food for thought.
Well, thank you, Thomas.
Thank you for sharing your insights.
It's a pleasure. See you soon. 감사합니다.